We're continuing our reading of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 10, Divisions of the Creation. And we're taking up Samyaprash we're in text 9. Lord Brahma is the most exalted personality in the universe because of his causeless devotional service unto the Lord in mature transcendental knowledge. He therefore created all the 14 planetary divisions for inhabitation by the different types of living entities. Purport. The Supreme Lord is the reservoir of all the qualities of the living entities. The conditioned souls in the material world reflect only part of those qualities, and therefore they are sometimes called pratibimbas. These pratibimba, living entities as parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, have inherited different proportions of his original qualities, and in terms of their inheritance of these qualities, they appear as different species of life and are accommodated in different planets according to the plan of Brahma. Brahma is the creator of the three worlds, namely the lower planets called the Patala Lokas, the middle planets called the Bhur Lokas, and the upper planets called the Swarlokas. Still higher planets such as Maharloka, Tapoloka, Satyaloka, and Brahmaloka do not dissolve in the devastating water. This is because of the causeless devotional service rendered unto the Lord by their inhabitants, whose existence continues up to the end of Dviprarata time, when they are generally liberated from the chain of birth and death in the material world. Text number 10. Vidura inquired from Maitreya, O my Lord, O greatly learned sage, kindly describe eternal time, which is another form of the Supreme Lord, the wonderful actor. What are the symptoms of that eternal time? Please describe them to us in detail. Purport. The complete universe is a manifestation of varieties of entities, beginning from the atoms up to the gigantic universe itself, and all is under the control of the Supreme Lord in his form of Kala, or eternal time. The controlling time has different dimensions in relation to particular physical embodiments. There is a time for atomic dissolution and a time for the universal dissolution. There is a time for the annihilation of the body of the human being, and there is a time for the annihilation of the universal body. Also, growth, development, and resultant actions all depend on the time factor. Vidura wanted to know in detail the different physical manifestations and their times of annihilation. Maitreya said, eternal time is the primeval source of the interactions of the three modes of material nature. It is unchangeable and limitless, and it works as the instrument of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his pastimes in the material creation. The impersonal time factor is the background of the material manifestation as the instrument of the Supreme Lord. It is the ingredient of assistance offered to material nature. No one knows where time began and where it ends, and it is time only which can keep a record of the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material manifestation. This time factor is the material cause of creation and is therefore a self-expansion of the personality of Godhead. Time is considered the impersonal feature of the Lord. The time factor is also explained by modern men in various ways. Some accept it almost as it is explained in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. For example, in Hebrew literature, time is accepted in the same spirit as a representation of God. It is stated therein, God who at sundry times and in diverse manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets. Metaphysically, time is distinguished as absolute and real. Absolute time is continuous and is unaffected by the speed or slowness of material things. Time is astronomically and mathematically calculated in relation to the speed, change, and life of a particular object. Factually, However, time has nothing to do with the relativities of things. Rather, everything is shaped and calculated in terms of the facility offered by time. Time is the basic measurement of the activity of our senses, by which we calculate past, present, and future. But in factual calculation, time has no beginning and no end. Pandit Cāṇakya says that even a slight fraction of time cannot be purchased with millions of dollars, and therefore even a moment of time lost without profit must be calculated as the greatest loss in life. Time is not subject to any form of psychology, nor are the moments objective realities, the moments objective realities in themselves. I'll say that again, I'm sorry. Time is not subject to any form of psychology, nor are the moments objective realities in themselves, but they are dependent on particular experiences. Therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami concludes that the time factor is intermixed with the activities, actions and reactions of the external energy of the Lord. The external energy or material nature works under the superintendence of the time factor as the Lord himself, and that is why material nature appears to have produced so many wonderful things in the cosmic manifestation. Bhagavad Gita 9.10 confirms this conclusion as follows: Mayadyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam he tunani nakaunteya jagadvi parivartate. What about the fan on this side? It should be on, right? Got to turn the button. There it goes. We only get one, so might as well use it, right? Yes. You can go a little higher, just not helicopter mode. That's as high as it goes. Called Chocodola. There you go. Text 12. This cosmic manifestation is separated from the Supreme Lord. This cosmic manifestation is separated from the Supreme Lord as material energy by means of Kala, which is the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Lord. It is situated as the objective manifestation of the Lord under the influence of the same material energy of Vishnu. Purport, as stated previously by Narada before Vyasadeva at Bhagavatam 1.5.20, idam hi vishvam bhagavan ivetara. This unmanifested world is the self-same person. This unmanifested world? What do you have? Okay. It is just a difference in the text, which is just the opposite. So, this manifested world is the self-same personality of Godhead, but it appears to be something else beyond or besides the Lord. It appears so because of its being separated from the Lord by means of Kala. It is something like the tape-recorded voice of a person who is now separated from the voice. As the tape recording is situated on the tape, so the whole cosmic manifestation is situated on the material energy and appears separate by means of Kala. The material manifestation is therefore the objective manifestation of the Supreme Lord and exhibits his impersonal features so much adored by impersonalist philosophers. Text 13. This cosmic manifestation is as it is now. It was the same in the past, and it will continue in the same way in the future. Purport, there is a systematic schedule for the perpetual manifestation, maintenance, and annihilation of the material world, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Bhutagramam imam kritsnam avasham prakritir vashat. As it is created now, and as it will be destroyed later on, so also it existed in the past, and again will be created, maintained, and destroyed in due course of time. Therefore, the systematic activities of the time factor are perpetual and eternal and cannot be stated to be false. The manifestation is temporary and occasional, but it is not false, as claimed by the Mayavadi philosophers. Text number 14. There are 9 different kinds of creations besides the one which naturally occurs due to the interaction of the modes. There are 3 kinds of annihilations due to eternal time, the material elements, and the quality of one's work. Purport: the scheduled creations and annihilations take place in terms of the supreme will. There are other creations due to interactions of material elements, which take place by the intelligence of Brahma. Later, these will be more explicitly explained. At present, only preliminary information is given. The 3 kinds of annihilations are: 1, due to the scheduled time of the annihilation of the entire universe; 2, due to a fire which emanates from the mouth of Ananta; and 3, due to one's qualitative actions and reactions. Of the 9 creations, the first one is the creation of the Mahat-tattva, or the sum total of the material ingredients, wherein the modes interact due to the presence of the Supreme Lord. In the second, the false ego is generated, in which the material ingredients, material knowledge, and material activities arise. Purport: the first emanation from the Supreme Lord for material creation is called the Mahat-tattva. The interaction of the material modes is the cause of false identification, or the sense that a living being is made of material elements. This false ego is the cause of identifying the body and the mind with the soul proper. Material resources and the capacity and knowledge to work are all generated in the second term of creation, after the Mahat-tattva. Jnana indicates the senses, which are sources of knowledge, and their controlling deities. Work entails the working organs and their controlling deities. All these are generated in the second creation. 16. The sense perceptions are created in the third creation, and from these the elements are generated. The fourth creation is the creation of knowledge and of working capacity. 17. The fifth creation is that of the controlling deities by the interaction of the mode of goodness, of which the mind is the sum total. The sixth creation is the ignorant darkness of the living entity, by which the master acts as a fool. Purport: the demigods and the higher planets are called devas because they are all devotees of Lord Vishnu. Vishnu bhakta smrito daiva asuras tad viparyaya. All the devotees of Lord Vishnu are devas or demigods, whereas all others are asuras. This is the division of the devas and the asuras. Devas are situated in the mode of goodness of material nature, whereas the asuras are situated in the modes of passion and ignorance. The demigods or controlling deities are entrusted with departmental management of all the different functions of the material world. For example, one of our sense organs, the eye, is controlled by light. Light is distributed by the sun rays, and their controlling deity is the sun. Similarly, mind is controlled by the moon. All other senses, both for working and for acquiring knowledge, are controlled by the different demigods. The demigods are assistants of the Lord in the management of material affairs. After the creation of the demigods, all entities are covered by the darkness of ignorance. Each and every living being in the material world is conditioned by his mentality of lording it over the resources of material nature. Although a living entity is the master of the material world, he is conditioned by ignorance, by the false impression of being the proprietor of material things. The energy of the Lord, called avidya, is the bewildering factor of the conditioned souls. The material nature is called avidya or ignorance, But to the devotees of the Lord engaged in pure devotional service, this energy becomes vidya, or pure knowledge. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. The energy of the Lord transforms from Mahamaya to Yogamaya and appears to pure devotees in her real feature. The material nature therefore appears to function in three phases: as the creative principle of the material world, as ignorance, and as knowledge. As disclosed in the previous verse, in the fourth creation, the power of knowledge is also created. The conditioned souls are not originally fools, but by the influence of the avidya function of material nature, they are made fools, and thus they are unable to utilize knowledge in the proper channel. By the influence of darkness, the conditioned soul forgets his relationship with the Supreme Lord and is overwhelmed by attachment, hatred, pride, ignorance, and false identification, the 5 kinds of illusion that cause material bondage. All the above are natural creations by the external energy of the Lord. Now hear from me about the creations of Brahma, who is an incarnation of the mode of passion and who, in the matter of creation, has a brain like that of the personality of Godhead. The 7th creation is that of the immovable entities, which are of 6 kinds: the fruit trees without flowers, trees and plants which exist until the fruit is ripe, creepers, pipe plants, creepers which have no support, and trees with flowers and fruits. It's on the test, so pay attention. 20. All the immovable trees and plants seek their subsistence upwards. They are almost unconscious but have feelings of pain within. They are manifested in variegatedness. The 8th creation is that of the lower species of life, and they are of different varieties, numbering 28. They are all extensively foolish and ignorant. They know their desirables by smell, but are unable to remember anything within the heart. In the Vedas, the symptoms of the lower animals are described as follows. Atetaresham Pashun. Go ahead, Samya Pras. Give him the mic.
Atetaresham Pashunaha Ashana Pipase Eva Bhivijnanam Na Vijnatam Vadanti Na Vijnatam Pashanti Na Vidhus Shvastanam Na Loka Lokaviti Yadva Bhuritamaso Bhurushaha Grani Naiva Jananti Hridyam Prati Swapriyam Vastreva Vindanti Bhojana Shenadhyartham Grihananti.
Animals have knowledge only of their hunger and thirst. They have no acquired knowledge, no vision. Their behavior exhibits no dependence on formalities. Extensively ignorant, they can know their desirables only by smell, and by such intelligence only can they understand what is favorable and unfavorable. Their knowledge is concerned only with eating and sleeping. Therefore, even the most ferocious lower animals, such as tigers, can be tamed simply by regularly supplying meals and accommodations for sleeping. Only snakes cannot be tamed by such an arrangement. O purest Vidura, of the lower animals, the cow, goat, buffalo, Krishna stag, hog, Gavaya, animal, deer, lamb, and camel all have 2 hooves. The horse, mule, ass, gora, sharaba, bison, and wild cow all have only 1 hoof. Now you may hear from me about the animals who have 5 nails. the dog, jackal, tiger, fox, cat, rabbit, sajaru, lion, monkey, elephant, tortoise, alligator, gosapa, etc. all have 5 nails in their claws. They are known as panchanakas, or animals having 5 nails. The heron, vulture, crane, hawk, basa, bhaluka, peacock, swan, sarasa, chakravaka, crow, owl, and others are the birds. The creation of the human beings, who are of one species only, and who stock their eatables in the belly, is the 9th in the rotation. In the human race, the mode of passion is very prominent. Humans are always busy in the midst of miserable life, but they think themselves happy in all respects. Purport. The human being is more passionate than the animals, and thus the sex life of the human being is more irregular. The animals have their due time for sexual intercourse, but the human being has no regular time for such activities. The human being is endowed with a higher, advanced stage of consciousness for getting relief from the existence of material miseries, but due to his ignorance he thinks that his higher consciousness is meant for advancing in the material comforts of life. Thus his intelligence is misused in the animal propensities, eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, instead of spiritual realization. By advancing in material comforts, the human being puts himself into a more miserable condition. But, illusioned by the material energy, he always thinks himself happy, even while in the midst of misery. Such misery of human life is distinct from the natural, comfortable life enjoyed even by the animals. Text number 27. O good Vidura, these last 3 creations and the creation of demigods, the 10th creation, are Vaikrita creations, which are different from the previously described Prakrita natural creations. The appearance of the Kumaras is both. The creation of the demigods is of 8 varieties. 1, the demigods. 2, the forefathers. 3, the asuras or demons. 4, the Gandharvas and Apsaras or angels. 5, the Yakshas and Rakshasas. 6, the Siddhas, Charanas and Vidyadharas. 7, the Bhutas, Pretas and Pishachas. And 8, the superhuman beings, celestial singers, etc. All are created by Brahma, the creator of the universe. Purport. As explained in the 2nd canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the Siddhas are inhabitants of Siddha Loka, where the residents travel in space without vehicles. At their mere will, they can pass from one planet to another without difficulty. Therefore, in the upper planets, the inhabitants are far superior to the inhabitants of this planet in all matters of art, culture, and science, since they possess brains superior to those of human beings. The spirits of jinn mentioned in this connection are also counted among the demigods because they are able to perform uncommon functions not possible for men. Text number 30. Now I shall describe the descendants of the Manus. The Creator Brahma, as the incarnation of the passion mode of the personality of Godhead, creates the universal affairs for unfailing desires in every millennium by the force of the Lord's energy. Purport. The cosmic manifestation is an expansion of one of the many energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Creator and the created are both emanations of the same supreme truth, as stated in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, Janmad Yasya Yataha. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 10th chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Divisions of Creation. Bravo! Bravissimo. Sadhu, sadhu. Now we've come to chapter 11, calculation of time from the atom. And before we proceed, we'll see if we have a few reflections or questions.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So in 310.3, the purport, there's a description of Cāṇakya Rishi being a descendant of Sukadeva Goswami. I just wanted to ask, where is this described?
3:10:3. Suta Goswami said, O son of Bhrigu, that one? The great sage Maitreya Muni?
Yes.
Thus hearing from Vidura, felt very much enlivened. Everything was in his heart, and thus he began to reply to the questions one after another. The phrase Sutta Uvacha, Suta Goswami said, appears to indicate a break in the discourse between Maharaj Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami. While Shukadeva Goswami was speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, Suta Goswami was only one member of a large audience, but Suta Goswami was speaking to the sages of Naimsharanya, headed by the sage Cāṇakya, a descendant of Shukadeva Goswami. This, however, does not make any substantial difference in the topics under discussion. So what's your question? Because that's the answer is, this, however, does not make any substantial difference in the topics under discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
In text 26 of chapter 10, there's the creation of the human beings who are of one species only and who stock their edibles in the belly is the ninth in the rotation. Now my question is, it's saying here that they're of one species only, but simultaneously we hear that ekavida is the Sanskrit word that's used. Simultaneously we hear that there's 400,000 different species of human beings. So I was trying to figure out how to reconcile those two points.
I don't know.
400,000 varieties in the 800 and 400,000. There's 40,000 different human species, right? 400, yeah, 400. Sorry, 400 are human species, but it's saying here that ekavida, there's only one species of human. So I was trying to reconcile these two.
Okay, Shami Prash.
When we're hearing about the 400,000 species of humans, that's a division on the basis of consciousness. The varieties of human life are all based on the permutations of the modes of nature, and therefore the kind of culture that they live by is considered to be substantially different enough to warrant a different species. When we hear about one, it means they can all biologically intermingle and create other human beings. So the modern idea of a species is the one species idea, i.e. like horses and donkeys are biologically distinct because they can make mules, but mules can't make any other children, so mules aren't actually a species. That's the way the modern looks at it, and the Vedic conception includes that, but primarily deals with consciousness. So mostly Prabhupada's descriptions of human species deal with how they're living. What they're eating, what they consider important.
It's one of the biggest.
Not whether they can have babies with each other, because they all can.
Good answer. Happy?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Prabhupada Priya.
So this is going back from the previous session, but my reflection that I wanted to share was in relation to 9:22, where Lord Brahma, he ends the verse saying, for I am also one of the surrendered souls who are dear to the Lord. I thought it was really nice. It was like one of these, nowadays we talk about affirmations. And sometimes like in mental health, if somebody's depressed or low self-esteem, they'll go to a therapist will tell them, stand in front of the mirror and say things like, I am worthy of being loved, I am, a valuable person. So it's almost like Brahma is saying, I am a surrendered soul, I am dear to the Lord. That was sweet. It was something that we can do as devotees. I am dear to the Lord. I'm a surrendered soul.
Yeah. I liked it too. It's very sweet. Anything else from the very effulgent group in the Bhaya-lok? Bahir-lok. Okay. We're continuing, and we'll continue after a Gauranga stretch. Calculation of time from the atom. The material manifestation's ultimate particle, which is indivisible and not formed into a body, is called the atom. It exists always as an invisible identity, even after the dissolution of all forms. The material body is but a combination of such atoms, but it is misunderstood by the common man. The atomic description of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is almost the same as the modern science of atomism. And this is further described in the Paramanuvada of Kannada. In modern science also, the atom is accepted as the ultimate indivisible particle of which the universe is composed. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the full text of all descriptions of knowledge, including the theory of atomism. The atom is the minute, subtle form of eternal time. Atoms are the ultimate state of the manifest universe. When they stay in their own forms without forming different bodies, they are called the unlimited oneness. There are certainly different bodies in physical forms, but the atoms themselves form the complete manifestation. One can estimate time by measuring the movements of the atomic combination of bodies. Time is the potency of the Almighty Personality of Godhead, Hari, who controls all physical movement, although he is not visible in the physical world. Atomic time is measured according to its covering a particular atomic space. That time which covers the unmanifest aggregate of atoms is called the great time. Purport: time and space are two correlative terms. Time is measured in terms of its covering a certain space of atoms. Standard time is calculated in terms of the movement of the sun. The time covered by the sun in passing over an atom is calculated as atomic time. The greatest time of all covers the entire existence of the non-dual manifestation. All the planets rotate and cover space, and space is calculated in terms of atoms. Each planet has its particular orbit for rotating, in which it moves without deviation, and similarly the sun has its orbit. The complete calculation of the time of creation, maintenance, and dissolution, measured in terms of the circulation of the total planetary systems until the end of creation, is known as the Supreme Kala. 5. The division of gross time is calculated as follows. 2 atoms make 1 double atom, and 3 double atoms makes 1 hexatom. This hexatom is visible in the sunshine which enters through the holes of a window screen. One can clearly see that the hexatom goes up towards the sky. Purport: the atom is described as an invisible particle, but when 6 such atoms combine together, they are called Trasarenu. And this is visible in the sunshine pouring through the holes of a window screen. The time duration needed for the integration of 3 Trasarenus is called a Truti. And 100 Trutis makes 1 Veda. 3 Vedas make 1 Lava. Purport: is calculated that if a second is divided into 1,687.5 parts, each part is the duration of a Truti, which is the time occupied in the integration of 18 atomic particles. Such a combination of atoms into different bodies creates the calculation of material time. The sun is the central point for calculating all different durations. The duration of time of 3 lavas is equal to 1 nimesha. The combination of 3 nimeshas makes 1 shana. 5 shanas combined together make 1 kashta, and 15 kashtas make 1 laghu. Purport: by calculation, it is found that 1 laghu is equal to 2 minutes. The atomic calculation of time in terms of Vedic wisdom may be converted into present time with this understanding. 8. 15 laghus make 1 nadika, which is also called a danda. 2 dandas make 1 muhurta, and 6 or 7 dandas make 1/4 of a day or night, according to human calculation. The measuring pot for 1 nadika or danda can be prepared with a 6 pala weight, 14-ounce pot of copper, in which a hole is bored with a gold probe, weighing 4 masha and measuring 4 fingers long. When the pot is placed on water, the time before the water overflows in the pot is called 1 danda. One of our youth did this experiment a long time ago, just to test it out, and was very impressed. Purport: it is advised herein that the bore in the copper measuring pot must be made with a probe weighing not more than 4 masha and measuring not longer than 4 fingers. This regulates the diameter of the hole. The pot is submerged in water, and the overflooding time is called danda. This is another way of measuring the duration of a danda, just as time is measured by sand in a glass. It appears that in the days of Vedic civilization there was no dearth of knowledge in physics, chemistry, or higher mathematics. Measurements were calculated in different ways, as simply as could be done. It is calculated that there are 4 praharas, which are also called yamas, in the day and 4 in the night of the human being. Similarly, 15 days and nights are a fortnight, and there are 2 fortnights, white and black, in a month. The aggregate of the 2 fortnights is 1 month, and that period is 1 complete day and night for the Pita planets. 2 of such months comprise 1 season, and 6 months comprise 1 complete movement of the sun from south to north. 2 solar movements make 1 day and night of the demigods, and that combination of day and night is 1 complete calendar year for the human being. The human being has a duration of life of 100 years. Influential stars, planets, luminaries, and atoms all over the universe are rotating in their respective orbits under the direction of the Supreme, represented by eternal Kala. Purport: in the Brahma Samhita it is stated that the sun is the eye of the Supreme, and it rotates in its particular orbit of time. Similarly, beginning from the sun down to the atom, all bodies are under the influence of the Kala Chakra. or the orbit of eternal time. And each of them has a scheduled orbital time of 1 samvatsara. 14. There are 5 different names for the orbits of the sun, moon, stars, and luminaries in the firmament, and they each have their own samvatsara. The subject matters of physics, chemistry, mathematics, astronomy, time, and space dealt with in the above verses of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam are certainly very interesting to students of the particular subject. But as far as we are concerned, we cannot explain them very thoroughly in terms of technical knowledge. The subject is summarized by the statement that above all the different branches of knowledge is the supreme control of Kala, the plenary representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing exists without him, and therefore everything, however wonderful it may appear to our meager knowledge, is but the work of the magical wand of the Supreme Lord. As far as time is concerned, we beg to subjoin herewith a table of timings in terms of the modern clock. Everyone please, on your next break, study it to your heart's content. 2 pakshas comprise 1 month, and 12 months comprise 1 calendar year, or 1 full orbit of the sun. A human being is expected to live up to 100 years. That is the way of the controlling measure of eternal time. The Brahma Samhita 552 affirms this control in this way: Yachchakshad esha savita sakala grahanam raja samasta suramurtir ashesha teja yasagnaya brahmati sambrita kala chakro govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, under whose control even the sun, which is considered to be the eye of the Lord, rotates within the fixed orbit of eternal time. The sun is the king of all planetary systems and has unlimited potency in heat and light. O Vidura, the sun enlivens all living entities with his unlimited heat and light. He diminishes the duration of life of all living entities in order to release them from their illusion of material attachment. And he enlarges the path of elevation to the heavenly kingdom. He thus moves in the firmament with great velocity, and therefore everyone should offer him respects once every 5 years with all ingredients of worship. Vidura said, I now understand the life durations of the residents of the Pita planets and heavenly planets, as well as that of the human beings. Now kindly inform me of the durations of life of those greatly learned living entities who are beyond the range of a kalpa. Purport: the partial dissolution of the universe that takes place at the end of Brahma's day does not affect all the planetary systems. The planets of the highly learned living entities like the sages, Cāṇakya and Bhrigu, are not affected by the dissolutions of the millenniums. All the planets are of different types, and each is controlled by a different Kala Chakra, or schedule of eternal time. The time of the Earth planet is not applicable to other, more elevated planets. Therefore, Vidura herein inquires about the duration of life on other planets. O spiritually powerful one, you can understand the movements of eternal time, which is the controlling form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because you are a self-realized person, you can see everything by the power of mystic vision. Purport: those who have reached the highest perfectional stage of mystic power and can see everything in the past, present, and future are called Kalagya's. Similarly, the devotees of the Lord can see everything clearly that is in the revealed scriptures. The devotees of Lord Sri Krishna can very easily understand the science of Krishna as well as the situation of the material and spiritual creations without difficulty. Devotees do not have to endeavor for any yoga siddhi or perfection in mystic powers. They are competent to understand everything by the grace of the Lord who is sitting in everyone's heart. Maitreya said, O Vidura, the 4 millenniums are called the Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali Yugas. The aggregate number of years of all these combined is equal to 12,000 years of the demigods. Purport, the years of the demigods are equal to 360 years of humankind. As will be clarified in the subsequent verses, 12,000 of the demigods' years, including the transitional period, which are called Yuga Sandhyas, comprise the total of the aforementioned 4 millenniums. Thus, the aggregate of the above-mentioned 4 millenniums is 4,320,000 years. Reflections, questions? Yes? Devavrata Prabhu.
I was just thinking how the study of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is very much all-encompassing, and one may question, what does this have to do with my relationship with Krishna? But I was just thinking as we were going through it that it really humbles you a lot to understand just how little time we have, and that humility can really create a sense of, I need to go for this, I need to apply myself, because things are moving so quickly, and when we hear these descriptions of time, it may seem scientific, it may seem irrelevant, but when we internalize it, it can really intensify our determination to practice sincerely.
Yeah, it reminds me of Prahlad Maharaj, Chakre Vishnukarsha to Prapato, what is that? Chakre Vishishtamada Yeshvara Shorisharam. He says, I'm being crushed by the wheel of time. That sort of relates to your point. And I always have appreciated in this, one of the last few purports, how Prabhupada simplifies it and said, all these technical things I won't be able to explain. But the main point here is that Krishna is in control of all these things. Other points? Yes, Mukharavind.
In one of the verse, then when it was describing the 9 kinds of creation, I think animals, they have just one senses which is prominent. I think smell or something. Through that they get control. And when Prahlad Maharaj described in the 9th chapter, he says like how there are all the senses are like ghosts.
Jivaikatoj harshati abdiprita shishnunyatastvadudam shravanam katayam. Graununyatas chapaladik kwach karma shaktir bhavyasapatnam ekeha patim lunanti. That one?
Yes, yeah, that one. How human being has all the senses, and how much we are in more dire condition than the animals. That
Poor animals. They just get pulled along by the sense of smell. It's just their karma is to, here it is, take it. They're a complete slave to their nose. Let's see anything outside. Yes, Prabhu.
Just a quick comment. I was thinking about reading this section also in relevance to Devavrata Prabhu's comment, the verse 2.3.17, Ayur harati vai pumsam udyanastan chayanaso tasyarte dakshino nitya uttama shloka vartaya, that the sun is decreasing the duration of life of everyone, but this doesn't actually happen to the person who's constantly engaged in in glorifying uttama shloka and glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'm feeling very fortunate to be here with everyone, utilizing time in such a proper way, as it's literally bearing down on these material bodies as we speak.
Yeah, well, we notice that because we're He's engaged. We practically don't even notice it, right? I mean, so engaged, you just look down every once in a while and go, yeah, that happens. But it's not that consequential. Please.
I really like this meditation on time as the external energy of the Lord, because time it's the force that basically activated the whole creation process, that Kala Shakti was included in the glance of the Lord, and then it continues to just carry everything along, like a river, like things fall in the river and they just get carried along. So like we're all just, everything that's happening in this universe, this material manifestation is just being carried along by this river of time, but it's the energy of the Lord. So it just reconfirms that everything's happening by the will of Krishna and in Krishna's timing.
Yeah, and it reminded when you gave that visual of the force of a stream coming down, there's a saying, it all comes out in the wash. And there's a way in which I've noticed, just a couple examples, like somebody will say, can you come to such and such a place? And I think it's a year from now. How difficult will it be to say yes? And you say yes, and then all of a sudden it's upon you. And then things that happened 50 years ago, like once I was applying for a global entry card up in Niagara Falls, because we were getting the Canadian one too, and the last part of it was to go in the office. They called me in there and said, have you ever been arrested? And I said, probably. And I had forgotten from being on Sankirtan what had happened. It just reminded me that everything's imprinted in time. And when at the exact right, I'm trying to avoid using time, circumstance, it manifests by Krishna's energy. Nothing's forgotten and nothing's lost, nothing's overlooked. Everything's perfectly, it sounds chaotic with it flowing as we were describing, but it's actually, everything comes out in the wash. Nothing's missed, everything's perfectly meted out at the right time.
Yeah, like the river, it's going to the sea. It never goes backwards, it's going somewhere. So this river of time is carrying us somewhere, it's carrying us back home, back to Godhead. And as soon as we get there, then we're not influenced by time anymore, because there's no need for it.
Well, that'll be a relief. Okay, who's next? Yes?
Since we quoted that verse in the Brahma Samhita about the sun, I always appreciated the way that verse was translated. The sun, who is the king of all the planets, full of infinite effulgence, the image of the good soul, is as the eye of this world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in pursuance of whose order the sun performs his journey mounting the wheel of time. And I remember reading that and realizing in a second that there is an author, a fiction author, who wrote a 14-book mega epic fantasy fiction series that I read once upon a long time ago. And it's called The Wheel of Time. And the first book is called The Eye of the World. And the author is well known for having appreciated Vedic ideas. And in fact, the books have to do with cyclical time. And I was like, okay, that's where he got it from. He read Brahma Samhita. Somehow or other, someone got a Brahma Samhita in his hands. And he created one of the most interesting in that realm of fiction, because these ideas are actually so relevant. They're so fresh. They're so actually interesting. And it's so cogent. Of course, cyclical time. It makes so much sense. It was like a light bulb for him. He even took the words out of the translation for two of the aspects of it. And who's going to call him out on it?
Get his number.
Yeah.
We're on to you.